The great crystal chamber of the Galactic Council, filled with angry voices as representatives from 47 different worlds gathered for an emergency meeting. The massive dome above them sparkled with light from 3 different suns, casting rainbow colors on the polished floors where beings of all shapes and sizes took their seats. Ambassador Kate Morgan sat alone at the human table, her blue uniform neat and pressed despite the hostile looks directed her way. Around her, alien delegates whispered in dozens of languages, but she could guess what they were saying. The humans had done it again. They had broken the rules, ignored orders, and acted without permission. Council Speaker Vexitar stood at the center podium, his tall insect-like body gleaming under the lights. His compound eyes surveyed the chamber as he called for order with a sharp clicking sound that echoed off the walls. The chatter died down as hundreds of eyes, tentacles, and various sensory organs turned toward him. "We gather today to address a serious matter," Vexitar announced. His voice translated into every language through the chamber's communication system. "The human delegation has repeatedly violated our most sacred laws. Today we must decide if they deserve to remain among us." Kate felt her stomach tighten. She had known this day might come, but she had hoped for more time. The rescue mission on Kepler 442 had saved thousands of lives, but it had also broken every rule the Council held dear. Ambassador Olthea floated forward from the Collective of Harmony section. The jellyfish-like being pulsed with soft blue light as she spoke. "I formally present Motion X47 to this Assembly. We demand the complete removal of humanity from the Galactic Council, effective immediately." A wave of agreement rippled through many sections of the chamber. The Zephyrian delegates nodded their bird-like heads, while the robotic Mechanicus representatives flashed approval signals with their optical sensors. Even some of the smaller species that usually stayed quiet seemed to support the motion. "The charges are clear," Olthea continued, her voice melodic despite the harsh words. "The humans intervened in the Kepler 442 conflict after this council, specifically ordered all members to remain neutral. They built military bases in the disputed zones without proper permits. They refused to surrender their quantum weapons as required by Resolution 2847. Kate wanted to stand up and shout that every single violation had been necessary to save lives, but she forced herself to remain seated. This was not the time for emotion. She needed to think clearly if humanity was going to survive this. The prime speaker of the ethereal coalition rose next, his energy form contained within a crystal shell that made his voice sound like wind chimes. "The recent rescue operation led by Commander Jake Peterson proves that humans cannot be trusted to follow our laws. They claim it was humanitarian aid, but it was an act of war against the syndicate worlds." More voices joined the chorus of complaints. The amphibious Aquarians spoke of human ships entering their space without permission. The tree-like Verdanians complained about human colonists taking resources from protected planets. Each accusation felt like a punch to Kate's chest. She knew the truth behind every charge. The Kepler 442 intervention had stopped a genocide while the Council debated proper procedures for 3 months. The military bases in the disputed zones protected trade routes from pirates that the Council's peacekeepers could not handle. The quantum weapons had prevented 2 wars already this year, but none of that mattered now. The Council valued order above all else, and humans brought chaos wherever they went. General Scarhex from the hegemony of Scales slithered to his speaking position, his reptilian features twisted in what might have been a smile. "Humans are a disease that spreads through our peaceful galaxy," he hissed. "They question our authority, ignore our wisdom, and corrupt other species with their reckless ideas." Kate noticed how many delegates nodded at the general's words. Hegemony had always opposed human membership, but now they seemed to have convinced others to join their cause. Species that had once been neutral now looked at her with suspicion and fear. The robotic spokesperson for the Mechanicus Collective approached with precise mechanical steps. "Statistical analysis confirms human behavioral patterns are 347% more unpredictable than the galactic average," it announced in a flat electronic voice. "Their presence creates instability in 73% of diplomatic situations. We have maintained peace for 300 years, added the Zephyrian ambassador, her feathered crest rising with agitation. Every major conflict in the past decade has involved humans either directly or indirectly. They are a threat to everything we have built. Kate finally stood up, unable to remain silent any longer. The chamber fell quiet as she walked to the speaking platform, her footsteps echoing in the sudden silence. She could feel hundreds of alien eyes watching her every move. "Honored delegates," she began, keeping her voice calm and steady. "I will not insult your intelligence by denying the charges against my people. Yes, we intervened at Kepler 442. Yes, we built bases without permits. Yes, we have acted without council approval many times." Angry sounds erupted from several sections, but Kate continued. "But I ask you to consider why we acted. While you debated, people died. While you filed reports, slavers captured innocent families. While you maintained neutrality, evil flourished." "Order!" Vexitar clicked sharply. The human delegate will confine her remarks to legal matters, not emotional appeals. Kate felt her cheeks burn, but she nodded respectfully. "I understand the Council's concerns about human behavior. We are different from you. We act quickly, sometimes without thinking of consequences. We break rules when we believe lives are at stake." She paused and looked around the chamber at all the different species represented there. Some seemed curious about what she would say next, while others had already made up their minds against her. "I request one final hearing before you vote. On motion X47, Kate said. Give humanity 72 hours to present our case for remaining in this council. If our arguments do not satisfy you, we will accept your decision and leave peacefully." The chamber erupted in discussion as delegates argued among themselves. Some felt that humanity had already been given too many chances, while others believed in fair hearings for all accused parties. After several minutes of chaos, Vextar restored order with loud clicking sounds. "The council will consider this request," he announced. "We will reconvene in exactly 72 standard hours to hear humanity's final defense. Then we will vote on motion X47. As the session ended and delegates began filing out, Kate remained at her table feeling very alone. She had bought humanity 3 days, but she had no idea how to use them. How do you convince an entire galaxy that the very things that make you dangerous are also what make you necessary? She looked up at the crystal dome above, where stars were, beginning to appear as the local sun set. Somewhere out there, human ships patrolled dangerous borders and human colonists built new homes on distant worlds. In 3 days, she would learn if they still had a place in galactic civilization. Kate Morgan hurried through the corridors of Nexus Prime Station toward the human diplomatic quarters. Her mind raced with everything she needed to accomplish in the next 72 hours. Saving humanity's place in the Galactic Council would require more than words and good intentions. She activated her communicator as soon as she reached her private office. "Priority transmission to Earth Command," she said to the device. "I need Captain Lisa Carter and her team here immediately. Emergency diplomatic situation." The response came back within minutes. "Captain Carter is already en route aboard the Aurora with a full diplomatic support team. Estimated arrival in 18 hours. Kate felt some relief wash over her. Lisa Carter had a reputation for getting things done, and right now Kate needed someone who could think outside the box. The traditional diplomatic approach had clearly failed. While she waited for reinforcements, Kate began reviewing the intelligence files on her desk computer. Something about today's hearing bothered her beyond the obvious hostility. The motion to expel humanity had too much support, too quickly. Species that had been neutral or even friendly were suddenly voting against them. She pulled up voting records from the past year and began looking for patterns. The Zephyrian delegation had shifted from abstaining on human issues to actively opposing them. The Aquarian representatives who used to support human trade proposals were now silent. Even the peaceful Verdanians seemed to be avoiding any association with humanity. Fear could explain some of this change, but not all of it. Kate had spent enough years in galactic politics to recognize when someone was pulling strings behind the scenes. Her computer chimed with an incoming message from Dr. Allen Hayes on Earth. The xenobiologist had been tracking human-alien interactions across the galaxy for the past decade. His message was brief but urgent. "Check the hegemony connection. Something is not right." 18 hours later, Captain Lisa Carter strode into Kate's office like a woman on a mission. She was younger than Kate had expected, with short brown hair and the kind of confident bearing that came from commanding starships in dangerous situations. "Ambassador Morgan," Carter said, extending her hand. "I brought my best people, Dr. Alan Hayes for xenobiology and cultural analysis, and Communications Officer Ben Torres for intelligence gathering. We also have Lieutenant Commander Sam Hughes, handling security." Kate shook hands with each member of the team. Dr. Hayes was a thin man with sharp eyes who immediately began scanning the office for listening devices. Ben Torres looked like he could disappear into a crowd without being noticed, which Kate suspected was exactly the point. Sam Hughes had the alert posture of someone ready for trouble. "What is our real situation?" Carter asked without wasting time on pleasantries. Kate activated the room's privacy shield before answering. "Worse than it appears on the surface. Too many species have turned against us too quickly. I think someone has been working behind the scenes to orchestrate this." Torres nodded as he set up his equipment on Kate's desk. "I had the same feeling. During our approach to the station, hegemony ships have been making a lot of unusual visits to various homeworlds in the past 6 months. Dr. Hayes looked up from his scanner. "The room is clean, but I found 3 surveillance devices in the corridor outside. Someone is very interested in what we are doing." Carter sat down across from Kate. "Tell me about the charges against us. Not the official version, but what really happened." Kate pulled up the case files on her screen. The Kepler 442 intervention saved 40,000 civilians from ethnic cleansing. Commander Jake Peterson acted when the Council was still debating whether the situation qualified as genocide. The military bases in the disputed zones have stopped 12 pirate attacks on civilian shipping. Our quantum weapons have prevented 2 different species from starting wars over resource disputes. In other words, we did the right thing every time, Carter said. "Exactly. But we did it without permission, without following proper procedures, and without waiting for Council approval." Torres looked up from his communications array. "I am picking up some interesting chatter from the hegemony delegation. They are celebrating the motion's success before the vote has even taken place." Dr. Hayes activated his portable analysis unit. "I have been studying the voting patterns Kate mentioned. The species turning against us all have something in common. They have either received military aid from the hegemony or have been threatened by hegemony forces in the past year." Carter leaned forward. "You think the hegemony is behind this?" "I think they see us as the main obstacle to their expansion plans," Kate replied. "We are the only species that consistently stands up to them. Remove us from the Council and they have a free hand to do whatever they want." Torres waved them over to his station. "You need to hear this," he said, adjusting the audio output. Static filled the air, then cleared to reveal voices speaking in the harsh language of the hegemony. "Phase 1 is proceeding as planned," a voice said through the translator. "The minor species are too frightened to oppose us now. Once the humans are expelled, we can begin the pacification campaigns." "What about the Verdanians and Aquarians?" another voice asked. "They will submit or be replaced. Without human protection, they have no choice. The galaxy will finally have proper order." The team exchanged grim looks as Torres continued recording the transmission. This was not just about removing humanity from the Council. It was about clearing the way for hegemony domination of the entire galaxy. Dr. Hayes began pulling up files on his computer. "I have been tracking something else that might be relevant. Our deep space monitoring stations have detected unusual activity beyond the galactic rim. Large ships or structures moving toward inhabited space." "What kind of structures?" Carter asked. "Unknown. The energy signatures do not match any known species. Our scientists are calling them the Void Hunters, but we know almost nothing about them except that they appear to be heading this way." Kate felt a chill run down her spine. "Have you reported this to the Council?" "We tried," Hayes replied. "They dismissed it as human paranoia and refused to investigate. They said we were trying to create external threats to justify our military build-up." Carter stood up and began pacing. "So we have a conspiracy to expel us from the Council, unknown aliens approaching from dark space, and a galactic government that refuses to listen to warnings. This keeps getting better." Torres continued monitoring hegemony communications while the others planned their defense strategy. They had less than 54 hours to gather evidence, expose the conspiracy, and convince the Council that humanity was not the threat they should be worried about. "We need proof," Kate said. "Not just intercepted communications, but solid evidence that the Council cannot ignore." "I can get us proof," Hughes spoke for the first time since arriving. "But it will require some creative interpretation of diplomatic immunity." Carter smiled grimly. "Do what you need to do. The future of human civilization depends on the next 2 days." As the team worked through the night, Kate stared out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there, human colonies were building new lives. Human ships were protecting trade routes, and human scientists were pushing the boundaries of knowledge. In 2 days, she would learn if any of that would continue to matter to the galaxy. The irony was not lost on her. Humanity was being expelled for the very qualities that made them the galaxy's best hope for survival. The council chamber was packed beyond capacity as Ambassador Kate Morgan walked to the speaking platform. Every seat was filled, and additional delegates stood along the walls. News of the human defense had spread throughout the station, and everyone wanted to witness what might be humanity's final moment in galactic politics. Kate carried a datapad containing everything her team had discovered in the past 72 hours. The evidence was damning, but she wondered if it would be enough to change minds that seemed already made up against her people. Council Speaker Vextar called for order with his sharp, clicking sounds. "The human delegation has requested this. Final hearing before we vote on Motion X-47. Ambassador Morgan, you may present your defense." Kate looked out at the sea of alien faces watching her. Some showed curiosity, others hostility, but most displayed the cold indifference of beings who had already decided her fate. She took a deep breath and began. "Honored delegates, I will not waste your time with apologies or excuses. My people have broken your laws, ignored your orders, and acted without permission. These facts are not in dispute." Murmurs of surprise rippled through the chamber. Many had expected her to deny the charges or make emotional appeals for mercy. "Instead, I ask you to examine why we acted as we did. Dr. Hayes, please show the Assembly what we found at Kepler 442. Dr. Alan Hayes activated the chamber's holographic display system. The air above the delegates filled with images from the recent rescue mission. Massive graves filled with bodies, burning cities, refugee camps overflowing with survivors. While this council debated proper procedures for 87 days, the Kepler Defense Force murdered 43,000 civilians," Kate said, her voice carrying clearly through the silent chamber. "Commander Jake Peterson acted because people were dying while you argued about paperwork." The images shifted to show the rescue operation. Human ships evacuating terrified families, medical teams treating wounded children, engineers rebuilding destroyed homes. General Scarhex rose from his seat. "These images prove nothing. The humans could have fabricated them to justify their illegal actions." "The survivors are here on this station," Kate replied calmly. "They are willing to testify about what they experienced. Would you like to hear from them directly?" The hegemony general's reptilian features twisted with anger, but he sat back down without responding. Kate nodded to Captain Lisa Carter, who stepped forward with another set of files. "The charges against us include building unauthorized military bases in the disputed zones. What the Council did not know is why we built them. The holographic display showed shipping routes through the contested regions. Red markers indicated pirate attacks on civilian vessels. The pattern was clear. Attacks had decreased by 90% near human military installations. We built those bases to protect trade ships that your peacekeepers could not defend," Carter explained. "In the past year, our bases have prevented 67 pirate attacks and rescued over 2,000 crew members from captured vessels." Several delegates leaned forward with interest. The Aquarian representative whispered something to her aide, while the Verdanian delegation began reviewing their own shipping reports. Ben Torres took his position at the communication console. "The Council has also accused us of refusing to surrender our quantum weapons. I would like to explain why we kept them." The display showed a star map of the galaxy with various conflict zones marked in different colors. In the past 18 months, our quantum weapons have been used 3 times, not to attack anyone, but to prevent wars between other species. The first incident appeared on the screen. The Cygnus Sector dispute between the Stellar Confederacy and the Free Worlds Alliance. Both sides had mobilized their fleets and were preparing for battle. One demonstration of quantum weapon capabilities convinced them to negotiate instead. The second incident involved a territorial conflict in the Outer Rim. Again, the mere presence of our weapons stopped a war before it could begin. Torres paused and looked directly at General Scarhex. The third incident was 6 months ago, when hegemony forces were massing near Verdanian space. They withdrew immediately after our patrol ships arrived. The Verdanian delegate stood up suddenly. We were never told of this threat. Our intelligence services detected no hegemony military buildup. Because they withdrew as soon as our ships appeared, Carter replied. We sent a full report to the council, but it was classified as a minor border incident. Kate could see doubt beginning to creep into the expressions of several delegates. The Aquarian representative was now actively reviewing data on her personal device, while some of the neutral species were whispering among themselves. There is more, Kate continued. Communications Officer Torres has been monitoring hegemony transmissions. Play the recordings. Torres activated the audio system. The harsh voices of hegemony officers filled the chamber, speaking in their own language with translation provided. Phase 1 is proceeding as planned. The minor species are too frightened to oppose us now. Once the humans are expelled, we can begin the pacification campaigns. What about the Verdanians and Aquarians? They will submit or be replaced. Without human protection, they have no choice. The galaxy will finally have proper order. The chamber erupted in angry voices as delegates realized they had been manipulated. The Verdanian representative was on her feet, demanding an explanation from General Scarhex. The Aquarian delegation was frantically checking their own intelligence reports. General Scarhex stood up, his scales flashing with rage. These recordings are fabricated lies designed to save the humans from their deserved punishment. The transmissions came from your personal command ship, Torres replied, displaying the technical data on the screen. We have the complete communication logs, including your private discussions about territorial expansion plans. More evidence followed. Financial records showing hegemony bribes to smaller species. Military deployment records revealing forces positioned near various homeworlds. Recorded conversations between hegemony agents and council delegates. The conspiracy was laid bare for everyone to see. The motion to expel humanity was not about human violations of galactic law. It was about removing the one species that consistently stood up to hegemony ambitions. But Kate saved the most important revelation for last. Dr. Hayes returned to the platform with data from human deep space monitoring stations. There is something else the council needs to know, Hayes began. Our long-range sensors have detected massive structures approaching from beyond the galactic rim. We call them the Void Hunters. The holographic display showed sensor readings from the past year, enormous shapes moving through dark space, heading toward inhabited systems. Their energy signatures were unlike anything in council databases. We have tried to warn the council about this threat multiple times, Kate said. Each time, our reports were dismissed as human paranoia or attempts to justify our military expansion. The images showed the approaching objects in greater detail. They were clearly artificial, possibly ships or space stations, but their technology appeared far more advanced than anything the council possessed. How long until they reach inhabited space? Asked the Ethereal Coalition's prime speaker, his energy form flickering with concern. Based on current movement patterns, approximately 8 months, Hayes replied. Maybe less if they accelerate. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. An unknown alien force was approaching the galaxy, and the council had ignored repeated warnings about the threat. Ambassador Olthea from the Collective of Harmony floated forward. If this information is accurate, why did humans not share it through proper diplomatic channels? We tried, Kate replied simply. You refused to listen. You were too busy planning our expulsion to pay attention to the real dangers facing this galaxy. Council Speaker Vextar clicked for order as debates broke out across the chamber. Some delegates demanded immediate investigations into the hegemony conspiracy. Others wanted verification of the Void Hunter threat. A few called for General Scarhex to be placed under arrest. Kate returned to her seat, knowing she had done everything possible to save her people's place in the council. The evidence spoke for itself. Now she could only wait for the delegates to decide humanity's fate. The irony was bitter. Humanity faced expulsion for protecting the galaxy, while the real threats had been ignored until it was almost too late. The council chamber remained in chaos for over an hour after Kate's presentation. Delegates argued loudly in dozens of languages while General Scarhex and his hegemony representatives sat in angry silence. Council Speaker Vextar clicked repeatedly, for order, but few were listening. Ambassador Kate Morgan watched the confusion with mixed feelings. Her team had presented overwhelming evidence of the conspiracy and the approaching threat, but she knew that fear and politics could still destroy humanity's chances. Some species might decide that humans were too dangerous to keep around, regardless of the circumstances. The first sign of change came from an unexpected source. The Verdanian delegate, a tall, tree-like being named Elder Mordoon, stood up and spoke in a voice that carried across the chamber like wind through leaves. "The humans saved my people from hegemony invasion without being asked," he announced. "We never knew we were in danger until today. How many other species owe their freedom to human actions we never heard about?" The Aquarian representative, her blue skin shimmering under the chamber lights, added her voice to the discussion. "Our shipping records confirm everything Captain Carter said. Human bases have protected our trade routes for the past year. We assumed it was coincidence." More voices joined the growing chorus of support. The Crystalline Collective admitted that human intervention had stopped a civil war on their homeworld. The nomadic clans revealed that human rescue ships had saved thousands of their people from a stellar disaster that the council had not even noticed. Kate felt hope beginning to grow in her chest, but she forced herself to remain cautious. Political situations could change quickly, and humanity still had many enemies in the chamber. The arrival of Admiral Rick Stone changed everything. The chamber's communication system announced an incoming priority transmission from the human fleet. The main display activated to show the Admiral's weathered face and the bridge of his command ship behind him. "Council Speaker Vextar, I am Admiral Stone of the Human Defense Force. I am requesting permission to dock at the station with refugee ships from the Syndicate worlds." The chamber fell silent. Everyone knew about the Syndicate slave operations, but the Council had been unable to act because of political complications and legal barriers. "How many refugees, Admiral?" Vextar asked carefully. 47,000 freed slaves from 12 different species. We also have captured Syndicate officers who are willing to testify about their operations in exchange for protection." Kate could see the impact of Stone's words on the delegates. 47,000 people saved from slavery while the Council debated jurisdiction and proper procedures. The moral weight of that number was impossible to ignore. "We also have evidence that the Syndicate operations were protected by certain Council members," Stone continued. "The prisoners have provided detailed information about bribes, political favors, and threats used to prevent investigations." General Scarhex finally spoke, his voice filled with rage. "This is an invasion disguised as humanitarian aid. The humans are bringing military forces to threaten the Council." Admiral Stone's expression hardened. "General, my ships carry medical supplies, food, and temporary shelters for refugees. The only weapons we have are defensive systems. If you consider that a threat, perhaps you should examine your own conscience." The hegemony general started to respond, but Council Speaker Vextar cut him off with sharp clicking sounds. "Admiral Stone, you have permission to dock and transfer the refugees to station facilities. We will also need to interview the prisoners you mentioned." As the transmission ended, Kate realized that the political situation had shifted dramatically. The Council could no longer ignore the evidence of human actions saving lives while official channels failed. The conspiracy was exposed, the real threats were revealed, and humanity's value was becoming impossible to deny. Dr. Hayes stepped forward with new data from the monitoring stations. The Void Hunter approach has accelerated. Our latest readings show they will reach the outer systems in 6 months, not 8. The news sent another wave of concern through the chamber. The unknown threat was arriving faster than expected, and the galaxy was completely unprepared for contact with technology, so far beyond their own capabilities. "What do we know about their intentions?" asked the prime speaker of the Ethereal Coalition. "Nothing certain," Hayes admitted. "But the energy signatures suggest massive weapon systems. Whatever they are, they appear to be built for war." Captain Carter joined the discussion. "Human military analysts have been studying the problem for months. We believe the only chance for successful defense is a coordinated response using the combined resources of all Council species." "Under whose command?" General Scarhex demanded. "You expect us to hand over our fleets to human officers?" "I expect you to work together to survive," Carter replied simply. "Human tactical doctrine emphasizes adaptation and rapid response. Other species bring different strengths. The Crystalline Collective has advanced shielding technology. The Aquarians excel at underwater manufacturing. The Verdanians understand biological warfare better than anyone." Kate could see delegates beginning to think seriously about the practical aspects of galactic defense. The approaching threat made theoretical debates about human rule-breaking seem suddenly unimportant. Elder Morden spoke again, his voice thoughtful. "Perhaps the question is not whether humans can be trusted to follow our rules, but whether our rules are adequate for the challenges we face." The comment sparked intense discussion among the delegates. For 3 centuries, the Council had maintained peace through careful procedures and diplomatic protocols. But those methods had failed to detect the hegemony conspiracy, missed the approaching alien threat, and ignored massive criminal operations right under their noses. Ambassador Oilthea floated toward the center of the chamber. "I withdraw motion. X-47, she announced. "The evidence presented today shows that humanity's actions, while unconventional, have protected this galaxy more effectively than our traditional methods." The withdrawal of the expulsion motion sent ripples of surprise through many sections. Kate felt relief wash over her, but she knew the real work was just beginning. A new motion emerged from the emergency session that followed. Instead of expelling humanity from the Council, the delegates voted to grant them special authority to coordinate galactic defense preparations. The same independence and willingness to act that had made them controversial now made them indispensable. Captain Carter was appointed Supreme Defense Coordinator with authority to requisition resources from any Council world. Admiral Stone received command of the combined galactic fleet. Dr. Hayes became head of the new Threat Analysis Division. Kate found herself in an even more important position. As the new Director of Galactic Security, she would coordinate intelligence gathering and threat assessment across all 47 member species. The final vote was not even close. 43 species supported the new defense structure, with only the hegemony and 2 of their client states opposing. General Scarhex was placed under arrest pending investigation of his conspiracy charges. As the session ended, Kate stood at the window of her new office looking out at the stars. Human ships were already arriving with supplies and personnel for the defense effort. The species that had wanted to expel humanity 12 hours ago were now asking for protection and guidance. The irony was complete. Humans could not be banned from the Galactic Council because the Council could not survive without them. The qualities that made humanity difficult to control, their independence, their willingness to break rules, their tendency to act without permission, were exactly what the galaxy needed to face the unknown threats approaching from the darkness between stars. Ambassador Kate Morgan smiled as she watched the combined fleet taking shape outside the station. Humanity had found its place in the galaxy not by following the rules, but by proving that sometimes the rules needed to be broken to protect what really mattered. The Void Hunters were coming, but they would find a united galaxy ready to fight for its freedom. And leading that fight would be the species too stubborn to know when they were beaten and too determined to stop protecting others, even when no one asked them to.